Hey there, welcome in the next video of Segmenting 101, and in this video we'll cover what is a data extension. So a data extension is a concept you will hear often in Salesforce Marketing Cloud's context. It is essentially the way to store data. There are other ways such as lists, but honestly they're almost virtually never in use, something I maybe will cover in another video, and data extension is really the way to go. Now, in Marketing Cloud, there's several ways to navigate to data extensions. What I've done right now here is I simply went to Email Studio, and then I navigated via subscribers to data extensions. Now, I'm using a specific demo account, so whatever data you have in your Marketing Cloud will obviously be different. At DSelect, we like to use a package we like to call the demo data package, and once I've navigated in the folders here, you can see an overview of data extensions, and let's just open one called Contacts. So when you navigate to a data extension, first off, you can see an overview of the fields that are there. This is sometimes referred to as the metadata, that is to say, not the actual data in the data extension, but what kind of information we have. So that's metadata. By the way, I will often use the phrase DE as well, and that's just shorthand for data extension. That's basically how everyone calls it. Now, clicking further into the data extension to records, you can find the actual data. So records basically means the different lines of data. Now, that's what it looks like inside of SFMC, but this is basically where I'm going to stop in this series, actually showing Marketing Cloud, because I want to take a step back, as I mentioned, and just explain these concepts conceptually, because this is just one way to visualize data, but you would in fact be able to extract this data and work with it in a spreadsheet just the same. And so actually, as I will be explaining some of the next concepts, I'm just going to take a step back and create some data. So just like in Marketing Cloud, a table of data in a Google Sheet works much the same, and whether it's a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet or even other databases, the concepts are very similar. And I find learning to play with it in a Google Sheet will actually lay a good foundation for your understanding in Marketing Cloud. So let's just try to create a data extension right here on the fly. Say we want to have some information about contacts. Some obvious information we might have is things like first name, last name, email address, phone, and so on. Now, that's easy enough. These things we would either call column headers, because these are going to be columns that we're going to populate, or in the context of Marketing Cloud, we'd call them fields, right? Just let me show you that data extension again. So for instance, this data extension, we have first name, last name, email. If I go back to properties, you can see here, fields. So I might be using in this video the phrases fields, columns, column headers interchangeably. Know that I'm at least conceptually referring to the same thing. So that's that's how far the columns go. Now there's one other column that you would, when you're managing data, virtually almost always add, and that's an ID. So I'll just call that ID. And ID stands for identification or identificator. And essentially, we're doing this because, maybe we have two Toms in our database. And granted, they may have different last names and email addresses, but the first name is already confusing. Or maybe, both Tom and Julie are a couple and they share the same email address, which you often have with families. And because of that, it's still a different person, and you might still want to send Tom and Julie different stuff, even if they have the same email address. For these kind of reasons, and just because it's cleaner, pretty much any data extension will get an ID. So we're talking about contacts here, and so an ID will usually be a string. A string means a text, a text string, a number of characters that will be either letters or numbers, and they will just be put together, and that helps you identify the contact. There's different kind of ways to formulate an ID, but just for the to make it very understandable and very clear in this course, I'll just call them C01, C02, C03, and so on. And so as we're going along, we're basically creating a table of data. Now, I could fill this manually right now, but for the next courses, I have already prepared a small table of data that we'll just copy paste. We'll call these customers. We'll do this. There we go. Now for the next courses, we'll build a little bit further on this, but just know basic takeaways. Data extensions or DEs in Marketing Cloud are your basic building block, your basic Lego block if you like, for anything data related. And conceptually, they're pretty much the same as a table of data in Google Sheets. So if you understand some of the things you can do with that in a Google Sheet, you'll better understand what's going on in Marketing Cloud as well. All right, see you in the next one.